pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Sarah, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Becker is out tonight. Mr. Burns?
Present.
Ms. Carr is out tonight. Ms. Deal?
Here.
Mr. Keller?
Here.
Ms. Kaiser?
Here.
Ms. Lee?
Here.
Mr. Burbos?
Here.
Presently.
Here. Proper notice of this meeting has been posted within the open meeting laws of the state of Wisconsin. Do you have any modification to the agenda this evening?
There are no modifications.
All right, so this evening, before we talk anything else, we're doing election of our board officers. So I'm going to turn over the floor to Dr. Robinson.
Good evening. I have the honor this morning of leading the nomination period for the position of president for the 25-26 from this point until May of 26. Yeah. And so at this particular time, I will entertain any nominations for the position of president. Are there any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Brendan Burns.
I have a nomination for Brendan Burns. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Hearing a nomination for Brendan Burns has been properly seconded. Are there any other nominations for the position of president? Are there any other nominations for the position of president? Are there any other nominations for the position of president? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to close nominations for the position of president.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the nominations for the position of president with the name of Brendan Burns. All those in favor of Brendan Burns serving as president of the West Allis West Milwaukee School Board, please note by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays have the same right? Hearing none. Brendan Burns, congratulations. You're the new president of the West Allis West Milwaukee School District.
Want that? Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate the support and thank you for electing me. I hope to be diligent in my role as president and keep us moving forward as we continue our work. And also thank you, Noah, for your years of service here as the board president. You carried through several tough years and I appreciate all that you've done. And I think the board also appreciates all that you've done for us as a community. So thank you. All right. I guess with that being said, then, you want any statement speeches?
No, I appreciate the kind words. Happy to support the district and the board all the time I've been here. And so I'm here to support you now as president. So please continue.
Appreciate it. All right. So then I guess our next part of business would be to entertain nominations for the role of vice president. And so if there are any nominations, I'd ask for them now. And I would actually like to nominate Amy Deal for vice president.
Second.
All right. And since that has been moved and seconded, I would look for any further nominations for the role of vice president. Are there any other nominations for the role of vice president? Any other nominations for the role of vice president? All right. With no other nominations, I would look to close the vote on vice president.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All right. With that moved and seconded, all those in favor of Amy Deal as vice president?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Amy Deal is our next VP. Yeah. All right. Continue as VP. All right. And then we also are looking for then our role of treasurer. And so I would entertain any nominations for the role of treasurer at this time.
I'd like to nominate Kristen Kaiser.
Okay,
Second.
okay. Moved and seconded. Do we have any other nominations for the role of treasurer? Any other nominations for the role of treasurer? Any other nominations for the role of treasurer? As such, then, with no other nominations, I would look for a motion to close the vote.
So moved.
And then all those in favor for Kristen Kaiser as our treasurer?
Say aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
What's the command? It's like, all those opposed? All right, the motion carries. Kristen, you carry on as our board treasurer. Thank you. And then our final position up for election, I believe, yes, is our clerk. And so I would look for any nominations for the position of clerk at this time.
I'd like to nominate Jane Carr.
Second.
So we have a vote and a second for clerk. Are there any other nominations for clerk at this time? Any other nominations for clerk at this time? Are there any other nominations for clerk at this time? All right. With that, I'd look for a motion to close the vote.
So
for clerk.
moved.
Second.
All those in favor for Jane Carr as clerk for the school district of West Allis, West Milwaukee, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries, and Jane Carr will be our continued clerk for the school district. She can't say no at this time. So, with that then, what do we have to do next? That is moving on then, our next. Yeah, we have our showcase, and I just wasn't sure if we did our, the other pieces first, so, where are we? This isn't the right one. Yeah, so then we are moving on to our Franklin showcase. Yep, I need a different one. So if we could get that set up, do you guys need a moment of time to people forward? Look. I was like,
This is.
He doesn't have it. Did I?
Yeah. 2 years ago. Oh, was that chair there? Yeah, it's supposed to be. Yeah, you were already.
Your chair.
We're all gonna face this way.
Yep.
Yep.
Do you want to go stand by?
Honey, turn this way.
Yeah, that's the next one. Those wired on Thursday. Yeah.
All right.
You
So-
all ready? Go ahead.
So thank you. So I'm Steve Harris, principal at Franklin, and I would like to thank you all for having us here this May evening. I would like to thank our Franklin parents for agreeing to bring the students and of course, these lovely kids who have some things they're going to be talking to you about and maybe even some things for you to take home tonight, if that sounds good. Okay. So if we could go to the next slide. So couple things we have been, and I was told to keep it rather brief, but we have been doing so much this year when it comes to our theory of action. Can you click on that link if you don't mind? Our theory of action is very similar to probably what you've seen with a lot of them in the district. And what we're really excited about is our initial scores back in the winter when it came to our students in their fast bridge, said that we had a lot of work to do, okay, in the fall and the winter. And results are coming in, but the early results are very promising. Let me give you an example. In our theory of action, we want all of our students to show a certain amount of growth. The students, we have certain students who we want to make typical growth, and then our students who are like in the high risk categories, unless they are showing rapid growth, we're going to start creating gaps. So let me give you an example. We have a self-contained EBD program in our building, and every single one of those students made aggressive growth in both reading and math this spring. Okay, so we're really excited about that. And a lot of it is really, I think it starts with the teachers. We have done a lot of different things when it comes to what we've done educationally. If we could go back to the slide, we've created look for tools as a building that we've used with our staff, where we've gone into classrooms and we said, this is exactly what we want to see. These are the things we're looking for. When it comes to like our focus lesson, like that whole group lesson, these are the items that we want to see. We've been sharing that data with the staff on a consistent basis. So like, are we seeing these things? Are we not seeing these things? Those results have looked really good. There are a couple areas that stood out, like modeling, for example. We want our staff to model the intended learning for our students. And that is something that we noticed we were struggling with as a building early on. We did a lot of professional development around that. We're really seeing those results turn around. If you look at learning walks, one of my favorite things, gone into classrooms with myself, Corey Schaefer, who is our instructional coordinator, to do learning walks, see what's going on in the classroom. But we also had our staff do learning walks on each other. So staff members going into other staff members' classrooms with those look for tools and then giving feedback, which has really helped. We've done a lot of progress monitoring. We do it every single week to see where our students, how they're progressing. And that last line, what we do with staff ties into how they work with students and then how our students will perform and grow, which you'll see kind of what I'm talking about as we go through the presentation. Okay. Another thing that we focused on a lot at Franklin this year is building our culture. We've done listening sessions with our staff where we've said, like, what are the things that that we need to know about? What are things that are stressing you out? What are things that you think are going great? And then what we've done, Corey and myself, then Ms. Schaefer and myself, is we then created action plans to address them. Not just say, okay, we hear you, but literally create action plans to address them. I created a culture crew. We actually had a meeting tonight before we came here, which is a group of staff members who meets with me every couple of weeks to just talk about the culture of the school and how staff and students are feeling. One thing that's really neat, you guys, we worked with our staff to create a new vision, and that is really kind of, taken a life of its own, because it's really transformed into what our students are doing. So our new vision is we want students to belong here, grow here, and succeed here. And we actually, if you give me like 30 seconds, we actually, and Ms. Cracky will help, we actually created a song that when students walk through the building every single morning, this song is blasting on the PA system. It should be open. There's 2 tabs that are open. Yep.
Are you gonna sing it?
I'm not gonna sing it. It is rather catchy though. Yeah.
On Beecher Street, there's a place we know where we laugh and learn and grow with friendly faces every day. We cheer out loud, hip hip, hooray! We belong here, grow here, succeed here. That's the Franklin way. With our hearts full, we stand tall together every day.
I think that's good. Thanks. Yeah, so the kids love it, the staff loves it, and this is playing every single day as the kids come through. I won't tell you how we created the song, but we created it. So, so then the other piece of this is we've talked about our instruction, the things that we're doing with our students to make sure they're being successful. But then we also want to look at the students as a whole. We always talk about like the whole student. And so we want to provide opportunities for our students to be leaders in the community by being strong citizens. And that's what really brings us here today. So I'm going to turn things over to Ms. Fracky, who's our innovation coach over at Franklin, and she's going to take you through the next part of the presentation. Thank you.
So I run a club called Kind Kids Club. It's open to grades K4 through 5, and it meets once a month after school for an hour. Currently, I have 46 students involved in this club. We have a parent volunteer that comes and helps me out. And we've done a couple things like a kind quilt. Gemma, do you want to tell us about the kind quilts?
So on the first week of Kind Kids Club, we made a kind quilt with like these papers that say like what kindness is.
And where is that hung?
The kindness quilt.
And where is it hung in the building?
In the hallway.
Yeah. And then we did care packs.
So for care packs, we made these little bags of some stuff that we made for our local health center, and we made that bag full of some cards and lotion and socks.
And we donated them to a local nursing home. And what about the prep of all of these wonderful things?
So when we were doing the May Day walk, we Kind Kids, we decided to help with cutting the curtain. So on one of our weeks, we cut the curtains so that they look like that, and then we drew them in our homemade.
And then, so the first time we prepped the cartons, we saved all the cartons, they were all rinsed out, let them dry out, we cut off the top of all the milk cartons. It was a lot of work, there were about 325 of them that we prepared. And then McKenna actually came in a couple of her recesses and kept helping me to make sure they were all done. Then the following week, what did we do with that? Or the following month, what did we do with them?
We planted seeds in them and put dirt in them, and then we put them in our greenhouse that I think some of the kids built a couple of years before, and we put them in there and they grew, and then we had.
Yeah, so then I passed them out to all of the classrooms, and teachers applied the wraps to them, and then each class was given a map and a path to follow to deliver all of the flowers around the neighborhood. What did we do for Arbor Day?
For Arbor Day, we planted trees in our Franklin by the kind of like road by Franklin, and we planted trees and the tree people came. I think that's what they're called.
The West Dallas Forestry Division came over and helped.
And the
us out.
mayor was there.
Mayor came, yeah, he did a whole big proclamation that's now hanging in our office. And then finally, what happened on the May Day walk?
We gave out flowers to people around the neighborhood, and some people got one turn and some people got two.
Yeah, so depending on how many houses were on the block and the number of kids in each class, that determined, like, you have a block of 25 houses, but we only have 19 kids, so some people got more than one turn on that walk. The community really enjoys it, and the kids have a great time being out in the community and positive community members. Speaking of delivery, ladies, will you go deliver one to each of our board members?
And as the ladies are doing that, if I could just add a couple little things, and Ms. Deal, you might have remembered this because we started this at Madison.
Say thank you for continuing this tradition.
Yeah, Ms. Fracky brought it over from Madison. And a couple other neat things with this, these connections with the community. We get a lot of cards after we deliver these. We get cards from people in the community thanking the students for delivering them. What's really neat is, like, about a year later, we'll get 3 or 4 cards that have pictures where people have now literally planted these in their gardens, and now these things have taken off. And it all started with all the work from our kids in the Kind Kids Club. So we're really excited about that.
Everybody get one?
And then one other thing I would like to do is, we have a couple different groups in our building who are working on spreading kindness to the community. So we also made some kindness rocks that we are gonna be putting around our community, but they wanted you all to have one. And so, but we do have to say, get what you get if you don't vote. Okay. There you are.
And the plants are marigolds, if anybody's curious.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
What is your favorite part of being part of the Kind Kids Club?
That we get to help the community and sometimes the whole world with a lot of things. Like when we did the stuff to the nursing home, it helped a lot of old people that might not have like family that comes and visits them, so it brightened their day.
Like, why do we do Kind Kids?
To make the world a better place.
Any other questions for our presenters? Sure. I have one question. With all of this work that you're doing for the community and the world at large, with saving it, how is this impacting? How do you find that this club helps just the school and the halls and your classrooms? Have you found any changes with it, with your participation?
Well, I think being kind can help the world because after you do something kind, you feel really happy because like if you hit someone, you're gonna feel really upset. But if someone hits someone and you help them, you're gonna feel good.
Any others?
I also think that spreading kindness could also help us like grow to help each other to spread kindness. And if one person is kind to another person, I think that will continue on to spread.
Yeah.
Well said. Did you have something too?
Spreading kindness got island that how to be how when I grow up I will be kinder and I will probably learn.
Very nice. Very nice. Any others?
I don't know if I want to go after these. Another thing I think about is if he's up there, it says we have 46 students, grades K4 through 5. And really watching these kids work together, the older kids helping the younger students, making friendships that last throughout, their experience at Franklin. Just older kids understanding like this kid right here needs help, I'm gonna go help them, and just understanding how that whole thing works, I think is just another added benefit that I guess you really don't think about going in, but you see it happen. Once again, parent volunteers, parents being part of this as well with their children has just been like I said, we started it over at Madison, but definitely had a great in Franklin, and it's just been phenomenal. We really enjoy it. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much.
All right. You guys.
Nice job. Nice job. Nice job. Nice job.
Yeah. All right, so as they're wrapping up here, we will continue on with our meeting. And I think up next, we have our superintendent's report, starting with 8.1 and the legislative update, I think is where we are at, right?
Ready? So actually, we want to start out with a happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there, the ones on the board, any that we have in the room and throughout our district. We know that mothers, you have to take credit for everything that happens with us as kids. And so just kudos to you. I hope everyone had a great Mother's Day and memorable one. I'm grateful for the women that I have in my life, even though I lost my mom 6 years ago. I still have women to this day who continue to look after me, push me, and I know one is probably watching tonight, or will watch later on. She always watches my board meetings, and that's one of my mentors, Dr. Johnson, Rhonda Johnson. So I'm just grateful for the community of ladies I have around me who I call mother. So again, happy Mother's Day to all of the ladies throughout our district. Our legislative updates. Governor joins multi-state lawsuit. Governor Tony Evers has joined a multi-state lawsuit against the United States Department of Education for withholding federal funds from states that do not comply with the letter requesting state education agency to certify compliance with Title VI. The suit filed in Massachusetts U.S. District Court includes 18 states, including Wisconsin, New York, Illinois, Massachusetts, California, Minnesota, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Maryland, Michigan, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon, Rhode Island, Vermont, and the state of Washington. Public hearings for bills on rehiring retired annuitants and sexual abuse education. 2 legislative committees held a public hearing on 2 bills affecting school boards and K-12 education. SB 170 allows WRS annuitants to return to work without suspending their annuity, while AB 156 requires sexual abuse prevention education in grades 4K through 12. SB 170 allows rehired annuitants in the Wisconsin retirement system to continue receiving their annuity for up to 60 months, while AB 156 requires school boards to provide a school sexual abuse prevention instructional program to pupils in grades 4K through 12. Last week was Teacher Appreciation Week, and we wanted to show snippets of the video that was released. And so I'll allow that video to play.
Teachers, you show up with passion, dedication, and an unwavering commitment to our students.
You create safe, welcoming spaces where students learn, grow, and thrive. Your impact goes beyond the classroom. It shapes futures.
From engaging families to building an incredible community, your hard work does not go unnoticed.
We see you. We appreciate you. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for your passion.
Thank you for your dedication.
Thank you for inspiring curiosity.
Thank you for believing in every student.
Thank you for your creativity.
Thank you for your kindness.
Thank you for your resilience.
Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you for your energy.
Thank you for your unwavering support.
Thank you for being you.
This week and every week, we celebrate you. Thank you for making a difference in the lives of our students, families, and community.
So while the title is Teacher Appreciation, we recognize every single employee during this particular week. We believe that in some shape, form, or fashion, everyone is a teacher in our district, not only our licensed teachers, but also even our custodians. Everybody plays a part in educating our kids in some shape, form, or fashion. We do have a quick, show you snippets of a Faces video. It highlights Dr. Erica Mensloff. Dr. Erica Mensloff is the proud principal of Horace Mann Elementary School.
I always think about it this way. I really believe that I'm a servant leader. And so I've always kind of said that my mission is to meet people where they are and get them to where they want to be.
Erica Mensloff has come to Horace Mann as a driven leader in our building. Our culture has been shifting in terms of students feeling excited to be here, engaged in the work, wanting to improve their learning, and parents and families are welcomed every day into our building. Students are welcomed into the building, and we see that growth in the classroom.
Positive school culture is all about students feeling welcome and feeling like they want to be here. And so while I'm all about academics and want us to grow, from that academic standpoint, before we can do that, it starts with relationships. And so wanting students to want to be here. And so it's an elementary school. We serve 4-year-olds to 5th grade. We have to have that fun and inviting opportunity for them.
They know school's fun. They know it's going to be a fun place. And that's kind of what K4 is about, like getting them to love school. I always say that's one of my biggest jobs, is just to get them to want to come here every day. And what she brings as far as fun and her dress-up days, the elf on the shelf, when she was in the tree that day, minds were lost, so it's just, I think the kids know that there's a time for fun, and she's definitely good with that and okay with that. Then we need to get back to work and do the work that's important, and I think she's very clear about that with the kids, and I think she's clear about that with the families.
To describe Erica in a few words, I would say dedicated. She's really dedicated to this work. She's dedicated to help us all grow. Students, our staff, even the families.
I think that I'd probably want to tell her, thanks for being who she is and, bringing what she's brought to the building, and also for trusting what I'm doing in my classroom and believing in us as teachers and having our back and supporting us.
When we have a positive school culture, kids want to be there. And so when kids are here, that also increases our attendance. When we increase our attendance, we can impact our academics. So it kind of all flows together, but to me, it starts with the culture and building those relationships. So from a leadership lens, honestly, it's been the support that I've been given, not only from like the district lens, but certainly just from people here at the school. There's never a situation that I've been in where I don't know what to do. But the other thing is just seeing like happy kids. When kids know you, and so there's one little boy that, has kind of gotten a special place in my heart. And when I heard him say my name, and he's rather nonverbal, that was pretty cool to see. And then, like I said, just seeing kids in the morning, like, Dr. M, I missed you. I saw you yesterday, but I'm so glad that you're here today. But like I said, kids are kids, and like that's the fun part. Being able to see and bring that like liveliness of having an elementary feel to our building has been a lot of fun.
So thank you, Dr. Minslow.
I always think about it.
I can vouch that she was actually in that tree. That was not AI. And it was actually close to 0 degrees outside that day. So I was out there the day before watching her as she greeted the kids, and it was cold. That week was cold. So no, just truly a great spirit and great dedication is shown on a daily basis about Dr. Minslow. So a couple of visits the past week and a half. DPI Urban Leadership Consortium at FLW, meeting with school perceptions, explore and inspire spring concert at Jefferson, choir concert at FLW, MAPSI Gala, Neola administrative guidelines drafting session, facilities walkthrough at FLW, as well as Central High School, and Nathan Hale and Central High School band concerts on last week. All right. And did want to recognize Ariana Reyes, who is our student rep. She was unable to make it. She had a sudden emergency, so was not able to make it on tonight, but did just want to recognize her as being our student rep, and we'll get her back on the schedule before the year's out. All right. And that concludes the report for tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. And with that, we will move on to our public comments portion of the meeting here. And just like to remind everyone that you can sign up either online, or do we still have the sign in the back? Is that right there too? Yeah, either online or in the back, and you have 3 minutes to address the board. This is not a time to discuss, debate, or act upon any of the items that are brought up, but certainly if there's something small that we can clarify, we will do that in the time being, but otherwise this is your 3 minutes to showcase what you have to say. And then any follow-up that's needed will be made by the next regular board meeting. So at this time, I would look for anyone that wants to come up for public comments. Currently, I have none signed up, so I'll give it just a couple of minutes. Are there any, since you're on the Zoom, is there anyone in Zoom or anything? Is there anything signing up or saying they can't?
There's a link in the chat.
Oh, yeah. And if you're on Zoom, there is a link in the chat that you can use to sign up for the Zoom accounts.
Be Dr. Robinson in the West House was watching things.
Nice. Okay. Well, with that, I think that's lots of time that we've left for that. So we will close public comments at this time and we will move on to our board reports starting with 10.1 and the board calendar. Let me get that back up and open. And so just looking at that, today is May 12th, and we have a regular board meeting that also includes a workshop with the Deeper Learning Virtual Academy, and then Leadership and Learning 612 Math Curriculum. And then our following meeting on May 19th at 6 p.m. will be another regular Board of Education meeting with also workshops with Leadership and Learning, the GVC and instruction, as well as financial stability and efficiency referendum workshop number 2. So that is our board calendar. And then our next point of our meeting here is 10.2, where we have some appointments to make, including our district parliamentarian, our CISA 1 delegate, and our WASB delegate, as well as our WASB alternate. And so with that, do we have anybody that has interest in continuing in those roles or would like to move out of those roles or just wants to join in? Yes.
I would like to offer someone else my WASB delegate position. I would be interested in doing the CISA 1 delegate.
Okay.
And I am happy to give the CISA 1 delegate over to Kristen if she'd like it.
Fair enough. Okay. So we'll start with those then. Is there anyone else who is interested in the CISA 1 delegate besides Kristen at this time? Okay, then I think we don't vote on that, right? Yeah. So I think that would be fine. Thank you, Kristen, for volunteering for that. And then since we're right there with it, for the WASB delegate, we need a delegate and an alternate. Is anyone interested in taking over that WASB role?
I would be interested in doing the WASB rep.
The rep part? Okay. Is anyone else interested in that role or can do a little Thunderdome here? No?
If he wants it, I think Joe Becker would be a great alternate. I know he's not here.
He's the current alternate.
He is the current alternate, yeah.
If no one else wants. I don't know. Did anyone talk to him about it?
No, well, he didn't talk to anyone else about it. So if there is no interest in it currently with anyone, can we carry this to the next meeting if we need to?
Is no one else is interested in doing the alternate position for WASB? So basically, if I couldn't attend the meeting, presuming that you're okay with me being the WASB rep, if I couldn't attend the rep meeting at the state conference that happens in January, then the alternate would come in and make sure to vote according to how we can just, let's understand what that is. So it's only if I wouldn't be able to make it. But
right.
Someone want to do the alternate position? Otherwise, I'm sure Joe would still take it on if no one else is interested in it. Okay.
We'll just say Joe is the alternate for now.
Yeah.
He's not here to say no. Tough bananas.
Yeah. We'll just email it out to him if he has a problem with it.
We can adjust.
By the way, you're still the guy.
You're still the guy. All right. And then we also have our appointment for the district parliamentarian. And I know that Noah had expressed some interest in it, but then did I hear there was other interest as well from someone for district parliament? Oh, okay. I thought there was some more. So
I'm happy to do it. As being president, you kind of learn the rules pretty good. And so with Jeff being gone, he was a resident parliamentarian for so long because he had been on the board the longest out of everyone here before that. So between Brian and I now is the elder statesman on the board, unless Brian wants to do it, but I'm happy to take it.
Know it a little bit better than me.
Very good. I appreciate that.
All right. So then we'll go with Noah for our parliamentarian as well. All right. So thank you for all of that. And then we'll move on to our 10.3, our board committee reports, which I believe that we just have oh, no, that's just indented differently. The college and career readiness, Ms. Kaiser, do you have a report for us?
Yeah, we met tonight. We spent the full 55 minutes talking about strategic plans, 2025 goals that are for our next one. We had a really great discussion, putting down ideas. I'm looking forward to seeing what other committees put together. We also reviewed school perceptions data, our committee's portion of it. Over the next period of time, committees will see their portion of the data review and just kind of discussed our initial reactions to what is said. And that is my report.
Just to clarify, or to expound, the board committees will be working throughout this month to go over strategic plan stuff. And so a lot of the work that we'll be doing, if you guys haven't gone to a committee yet this month, you will be receiving that same information. We tried to keep it as generic as possible, keeping in mind that some committee memberships could switch. But for the most part, they're pretty generic and across the board. The only difference is it may be a little bit specific when it comes to certain committees when it talks about the school perceptions data, but that's the only difference.
All right, thank you. And then are there any questions for Ms. Kaiser on her report? All right, seeing none, we will move forward to our board reports of community events. So do we have anyone wants to report? Yes, Mr. Keller.
I'll keep this one brief because I'm sure it was brought up at the last meeting, but I was able to attend opening night of Les Mis at Central, which was absolutely amazing. Just always a great job by Jordan Pollard and the cast and everybody behind the scenes. Just an amazing show. Also, I was able to attend the Battle of the Dogs baseball game on Friday night. That was a lot of fun. I think Central at least, maybe Hale too, but I know Central had some injuries they were working through, but it was still a good game, and it was nice to see a big crowd there supporting our two teams.
Yes, Ms. Kaiser.
Last Tuesday, I was able to attend Central's jazz band and choir concert. I also attended Wednesday night. Our amazing Les Mis performers were able to go to the Skylight Theater in Third Ward and performed a showcase with 4 other high schools, which was really lovely to see. The kids were so excited to see each other and support each other. And it was a lot of really great high school energy. I also attended the Central versus Hale baseball game. I was there to support, but also the West Allis Youth Sports Wolfpack Baseball is now a sponsor. We have a nice big banner there, and they let the boys line up with their future high school, which was really sweet activity. My son's going to be Central someday, so the kids were, I say kids, the high schoolers were extremely nice to our boys, and I just wanted to say thank you to the coaches and the kids for letting them do that.
Thank you. Any others? Mr. Verbos?
I attended the Central, was it the band and the symphonic and concert band performance on Wednesday. It was kind of a bittersweet experience, just like the last day of Les Mis, where you're seeing a number of students that are graduating, leaving the program. Lots of farewells from Miss Gandry. It's great stuff. But in the 4 years I've been watching that band perform, they've improved dramatically, and I'm excited to see some new kids come in and see how it goes. And I saw Dr. Robinson there.
All right. Any others? Yes, Ms. Steele.
I keep forgetting to put that mic. So on the, last week, May 1st, I was able to attend FLW's orchestra concert. It's always great whenever you get to see a concert put on by Mary Pat Michaels. So it was a good job. Kids I can't even believe sometimes when I listen to it that these are middle schoolers because it's just so good. Also, I was able to attend the Hale Band concert on May 7th, last week, Wednesday. And a huge shout out to Miss W, or Dubs. I'm not going to say her whole last name because it's really long and I don't know how to say it. She actually got together with a retired band director, friend of hers, and they actually had a song, composed a song specifically for our band. And so when they played it on Wednesday night, that was the world premiere of this particular song that was commissioned for the band. So really, really cool. I'm very grateful for our music program. Both of my kids participate in it, and it's phenomenal. And then I just wanted to mention that I had the privilege of spending half a day at DLVA, our Deeper Learning Virtual Academy, on last week Friday. And it was just it was an extraordinary experience, just because they, obviously we're doing virtual learning with that. So I was learning, like, seeing how they function different than our other schools. But just like the staff there, we are so lucky to have such a good staff. They are so dedicated to their students. They work, I feel like, 150% to make sure that their students are getting what they need. And so it was really cool. I was able to, I got to see a staff meeting. I was able to sit in on a student roundtable where essentially they go through different student cases. Where are these kids at? What do we need to do to, are they on track? All that kind of stuff. Then I was able to watch them they do check-ins with their students. And so I got to go to a couple of the classrooms and see them, talking to the students, checking in with them, seeing where they were at. And then I was also able to, I got to watch one of the teachers do some progress monitoring with their students, both online, and then there was one in person, a student at that time. So it was just a really, really fun experience, just to kind of see like how they do it, how it's different from our other school. And so I would encourage any other board member, if you have, just even an hour or two, just to swing by and just see how they do it. I think I think it's great that we're able to offer this other way of learning, and for our families, because not all kids do well in person. So this is another, I think, good option for some of our students. So I just wanted to say thank you. So I wrote down their names. If I missed anyone, I'm sorry, but I wanted to thank Dr. Smith, Ms. Sikora, Dr. Schneider, Ms. Skiba, and Ms. Jacobson for having me. So it was a very a great learning experience. So that's all.
Awesome. Thank you. Any others? Your reports? No? Okay, well, I'll just share one. My family has been out, and then I was on work travel, but my son does participate often in an activity with the rec center, and they have Nerf night. I don't know if anyone's heard of this, but they go around and turn the gym into a giant Nerf arena and have at it. So it's a really fun and unique thing. My oldest has gone for quite some time, and there's a lot of kids that are stalwarts there, and all the different Nerf tools that they bring with them. So if you have the opportunity to check that out, that is one of those nice, unique things that our rec center does offer for the community. So
Actually, I had one thing that I forgot that I was going to say. And
go ahead.
It's actually a little bit of a plug for something that's through a rec center, which is something called Suburban Singers, which is a community choir that myself and my wife are a part of. We actually have our one of our shows coming up this Friday it's going to be at Docky. And so it starts at 7:30. If those interested, there is a link for getting tickets, or you can get tickets at the door. So it's we do 2 shows a year. Basically, we have like a Christmas or a winter show, and then one in the spring. So just want to put a plug in for that. And if you want to come see if I'm terrible at singing and good at it, you can feel free to do so. At 7:30. Doors open at 7. Hope to see you there.
Thank you. All right, and if there are no other reports, we will move on to 10.5, which is other updates and information items. That comes from me, but since I'm what about the committees? Oh, yeah, I mean, I can do that. I was just going to send an email about that, though. Oh, okay, yeah, so okay, so I'm jumping the gun on that then. So I do have one thing in that I will be contacting all of you about committee assignments, and that's going to need to be turned around pretty quick because we do have some work that is going to need to be done quickly and continuously as we move forward here. So it's a little bit faster than how we have done this in the past. So just be aware, and if you could get me your what you want to participate in and maybe probably 3, or just staying where you are, let me know. But I will send out an email to collect that data as well. So other than that, I have nothing else, as I was going to send out an email about that and not announce it here. So if there is nothing else, then we will move on to item 11, our consent agenda. And so I would look for a motion in a second for our approval of minutes, our employment summary, our supplementary contracts, and then the approval of the continued use of facsimile signatures.
Move to approve. Second.
All those in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, and that passes. And then with that, we move into our section 12, our action items, which we're going to start out with 12.1, the school district financial depositories, which would be Dr. Robinson and Mr. Norris.
So we'll actually ask the board to bundle 12.1, 12.2, and 12.3. There are annual approvals that we ask of the board to one, and the 12.1 is for financial depositories. 12.2 is for the release of purchase orders, as well as 12.3 is delegation of leasing authority to myself and our designee. And so those are the three that we're asking first for approval.
Okay. Do we need to do, are there any questions on any of these? I wasn't sure if they were presenting anything first. That was it, huh?
Yeah, so just any, for additional context, the approval of financial depositories is just our banking institutions. So that's an annual thing, as Dr. Robinson mentioned. And then the purchase orders allows us to start spending and obligating next year's funds prior to a budget approval. So the delegation of leasing authority is pretty straightforward, but it's a required board approval.
So
Move to
moved.
approve.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right.
1 second, just point of order. You should ask for questions before we vote. So after there's a motion and a second, you need to ask if there's any further discussion, and then you can ask for a motion. Just as a parliamentarian, it's my job to inform you. That's how it should work for every vote. There has to be an
Every vote.
opportunity.
All right,
Yeah, it has to be an
so
opportunity.
noted.
Sorry.
I mean, he's technically the best kind of correct. All right. Thought I did. Anyways, all right. So we'll move on to then 12.4, the independent hearing officer agreement for student expulsion and hearings, and that would be from.
So
Dr. Robinson.
12.4 is the approval of Attorney Aaliyah Lowell to serve as the independent hearing officer for the 25-26 school year effective July 1st, 2025 for purposes of conducting student expulsion hearings. Aaliyah is currently the independent hearing officer, so this is just an annual approval that we're asking for.
Okay. Are there any questions about that?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right. And then before we vote, are there any questions? No. All right. Then I would, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that passes as well. Then we move on to 12.5, designation of South Now as the paper to publish board minutes. Dr. Robinson.
Okay, you've actually read the recommendation, so that we designate South Now as the paper to publish our board minutes. It's required by law that the board minutes be made public. And this is the form that we of publication that we use as a district. So we're asking for approval of that.
Is there any input from the board on this? No. Look for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Are there any further questions on that?
No questions. I'll just mention that this is not the only place the board minutes exist. They also exist online on our website. People can access it there, but there's a requirement that a physical paper, even though I don't know if South Now actually creates a physical paper anymore. I think it's available on their website. This is in statutory requirement. That's why we have to do it.
All right, then with that information, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, and that passes. Do you want me, I don't need to read the next one then? Do you want that one, Dr. Robinson?
Actually, you can go ahead and take
You sure?
it. Yeah.
All right. So then we'll move on to 12.6, where we'll seek the position on the CISA 1 Board of Control for a 3-year term. And this is, again, me and Dr. Robinson, but I'm uninformed. So Dr. Robinson.
All right. So it is recommended that the board consider whether or not it would like to seek a seat on the Board of Control with CISA number 1. This would be an at-large seat for a 3-year term.
Questions? Yes.
Not question, I just want to make a statement. So historically, the board has considered this with the input from the CISA 1 rep to determine if they would like to seek themselves, because it's an additional meeting or more meetings than just the regular CISA 1 responsibility. So that's what I would, I guess, ask if the C1 rep would be interested in that. And if they are interested in it, then the board can say, yes, we'd like them to do that or not.
Fair enough. Ms. Kaiser, do you have any interest in?
I am interested in, yes.
Okay. All right. So with that, then.
Yeah, so then if the board's okay with that, then we can vote that we would seek that seat.
Okay. All right. So then I guess that would be what we're looking for. And so then I would look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Are there any other questions about this? No. Okay. Then look for a vote. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that carries as well. All right, and then we are on to 12.7, the adoption of Neola policy 5411, and that would also be Dr. Robinson.
Yeah, so to get into compliance with Act 20, the third grade promotion and retention for at-risk students. So personal reading plans. Any student who does not meet or completed their personal reading plan by the end of the third grade year would have to engage in a process to determine whether to promote that student to the fourth grade. So there will be a formal committee that's comprised and that's required by law in Act 20. So this change is to get in line with the new law that was passed about a year and a half ago.
Okay, so then I would look for any questions or input from the board. And I guess I do have a question just quick on that. With it being a year and a half out, what took the time for guiding adoption and pushing this to this point where
so we are actually ahead of the game.
Okay.
Just because it was approved doesn't mean it had to go in, it went into place initially.
Okay.
Or right away, I should say. So
Okay.
it did not go into place right away. So there was a little bit of a delay. So we're in a line. We're not out of compliance.
Okay. No, fair enough.
I also just want to note that WASB recently had some recommendations come out saying that the board should adopt a policy regarding this, even though the statutory language is a little bit unclear as to when it needs to be implemented, like the end of 2027 school year was kind of thrown about, but WASB said based on some other language that there could be some issues, especially if once funding gets hopefully cleared up and released for this, that there could be some push like, well, you didn't approve a policy by this date, and as such, now you're out of compliance. So it was suggested that, so I was glad to see that this was something coming forward.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, my question was just about timing and how that came about. Are there any other questions? No, so I'd look for a
Move
motion
to approve.
Second.
Are there any other questions then about this with a move in a second? No, look for a vote then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries. All right, and then 12.8, we have the temporarily waived board policies, and that is Ms. Strasser.
All right, good evening. This is just our annual request to waive a number of board policies as it pertains to the district being the host site for the City of West Allis annual fireworks on July 4th, rain date July 5th. So waiving would apply to both of those dates. And then newly added this year is we're going to be working with Neola, our representative, to update board policies. So this just becomes a standing. So we don't have to come to the board every single year to ask for the waiving, as it seems. I think this will be the third year now. It sounds like this will be the new home for a very long time for the City of West Allis annual fireworks.
I'm concerned that if it's not a yearly thing, we don't pay attention very closely to any incidents that occurred. I personally think it'd be best policy if we do not create it as a policy and we do make it an annual update. So then this may not be the same board year after year. And if we get complacent to, well, it's already there, then not that I'm against it. We had a great time last year. Absolutely loved it. I feel like a yearly vote would be more appropriate than a standing policy.
So what we'll do is actually talk with Savion, our attorneys, and get some legal advice on this and what would he suggest, and we'll bring it back. And whether we'll decide whether it be annual or.
I'm fine with everything else.
Yeah. This is just, yeah, and it just asks for the board to consider, so we could consider not as well. No.
All right. Any other questions then? No. All right, then I guess I would look for a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Are there any other questions before we vote? All right, then I'd ask for a vote. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that carries as well. And with that, that takes us to the end of our action items, and that brings us to our workshops, starting with Deeper Learning Virtual Academy and Dr. Smith.
So as they come up, I just want to kind of lay the groundwork for their presentation tonight. I first heard the presentation about a month and a half ago, and I had a lot of questions, but I think my questions were just really trying to anticipate what you would ask. And so I think we're at a point now where I wanted you guys to sort of hear it for yourself and what the direction will be and how this could possibly impact the entire district, not just students who are in DLVA. I think this is really can be a game changer to ensure that all students have a great opportunity to succeed, but also to graduate and get across the finish line. So Dr. Smith, it's good to see you. And Dr. Schneider, and I'll turn it over to you. All right.
Hi, Analogy. So first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to come here and present our proposal project today. We sincerely appreciate your time and your attention. I'm going to just kind of give the intro and then hand it over to Dr. Schneider. So about 2 years ago, we started working with and connecting with different types of virtual school experts. And something that continuously came up was this idea of a competency-based pathway. In year one, it was kind of just a discussion and a dream and a hope. And as we would roundtable on our students, we would say things like, wow, this could be a competency. When you say it so many times as I have this school year, it just like doesn't fluidly come out of your mouth any longer. Competency-based pathway students. So in year one, it was a discussion. In year two, that would be this year, is when we created the proposal, and Dr. Schneider did lead this project. So I am going to hand a majority of this over to him right now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for having us here to talk about this tonight. It's much appreciated. All of you should have in front of you at this point a paper copy of both this presentation as well as the proposal itself, which please do take home with you and read every word. Though I am an English teacher, I do accept corrections to my own spelling, grammar, and punctuation. Why are we coming to you with this? Why do we need a new graduation pathway for our students, especially since the district already offers the GED option 2 program? Well, our goal is to graduate 100% of all of our 4th year cohort students, right? Our seniors get to their 4th year, we want them to be walking across that stage in June with a diploma in hand, right? And that is a challenging journey for a lot of our students, right? Even under the best of circumstances. And one thing to keep in mind is that especially for students that have experienced any kind of barrier to their learning at some point along their journey to earning their 24 credits to graduate, it is much more likely with each passing year that they become less and less motivated to complete their 24 credits and earn them. This is borne out by some statistics I found from the National Center for Labor Statistics, saying that one of the top 2 reasons that students gave for not completing high school was that they just got behind, right? They didn't think that they could overcome the amount of work that they had to do in order to complete it. And one other major factor is that the go-to program only accepts candidates who reach a ninth grade reading level or have a cut score for the equivalent for their universal screening. And so we wanted to find a way for students who are facing really, really huge barriers to be able to graduate on time with their cohort in 4 years. So keeping in mind that students who get behind are more likely to stay behind, and those who cannot access the benefits of the go-to program, we wanted to create something that would be working in concert with all of the other supports that students already have in place in the district. So especially for our school, we know what kinds of students tend to want to come to us, what kinds of students flourish in this environment. A lot of times students choose to go virtual for health reasons. Maybe like it's physical health. They have to like be in and out of like doctor's offices. Sometimes it's for mental health. Sometimes they have negative experiences like in the hallways or classrooms with their peers. Maybe it's even just like one in particular, and they're just kind of like maybe a little space is necessary. Some of them are easily distracted. Some of them have a need for a flexible schedule, right? Sometimes it's family needs, and we offer a way for them to work with that. For some, it's transportation, and for some, they just respond to and engage with curriculum in a different way, right? That makes sense for them in this format. Why not send them to GoTo? Well, GoTo is a really, really good program for students who are able to read independently, do their research, do their prep, and then test through their credits. It's not as great for students who don't do well in a high stakes testing environment. If students can't hit the reading level that they need, they can't participate, period. And again, getting to and from the physical site can often be a real challenge for some students. And like some students honestly would rather just sit down and grind through the work rather than have to take like these single massive high stakes tests. We know this, we've talked to them. So here's what we're proposing for our school. And I'm happy to field questions about like how this might look at some of the other brick and mortar schools within the district when we're done as well. At DLVA, we offer a linear curriculum. We use a learning management system called Edgenuity. It is very straightforward. Students always know exactly where they are in it, as well as every parent who accesses the parent portal through it. But because it's linear, it means that we can provide something of a flexible schedule for them. A student who checks in with their teachers during the day while we're there, but prefers to do the majority of their coursework in the evening while the parent is home from work, great. A student prefers to work on the weekend so that they can have like a little bit more Friday to like attend to like family needs, great. We can do that. A student is in and out of like doctor's offices and they're just like behind for a couple weeks, but we know they can catch up later, great. We can do all of those things. We want to focus on the core subjects. So the state of Wisconsin requires 15.5 credits for a high school diploma. Those are in math, science, English, social studies, and physical education. They require a personal finance class, a comprehensive health class, as well as the passing of the civics exam in order to get that high school diploma. We also recognize that students are going into a really rapidly evolving and demanding competitive workforce, right? There are opportunities out there. Students need to be able to work independently, manage their time, cultivate an academic mindset, even outside of school, to be able to stick with it and pursue their goals. And our program really is a good fit for teaching students how to do that. We also know that students who really do well mastering content over time, as opposed to showing that they know it through a high stakes test, can do really well with our curriculum and the LMS. What in particular this competency pathway will do is by the time students get to a certain point in their high school career, remember, if they get behind, they stay behind. We want to take away their general elective requirements. We want to have them focus instead on the core requirements as well as coursework that will prepare them for career and college planning. So we are going to serve cohort students regardless of their reading level. So students for whom something like GED option 2, is that actually an option? This would be. On the slide that I have up in front of you, this is about how many general elective credits a student would take in their 4th year in high school. You'll notice that earlier on in their high school career, students take very, very fewer general electives and they take way more in their senior year. That's because in order to meet those core requirements required by the state of Wisconsin, they tend to take them earlier on. Apart from English, science, social studies, and math each require three years of schooling. So most of their schedule is kind of predetermined for the first 3 years of high school anyway. Then they get to the senior year, and that's when they have to take between 5 to 6 general elective credits. What we did is we took a look at what students in their 3rd year, that is generally juniors, would probably have to be at in order to really be on track to be able to expect to graduate on time in June of their senior year, in their 4th cohort year. The eligibility requirements we would like to propose for this pathway are that students in their 3rd year have to have less than 9.5 credits in their core classes and less than 2.5 general elective credits. Again, if you'll see here, the transition from 10th to 11th grade, you'll see that, again, if you add up like the number of credits they would have to have in their core classes versus their general elective credits, that's about what you would expect them to have if they're kind of staying on track with the courses they typically get as part of the standard curriculum. For students who are in their 4th cohort year or beyond, students would have to have less than 14 credits in their core classes. That includes like their comprehensive health, their FIA classes, and their personal finance, as well as less than 3.5 general elective credits. Once again, when we're looking at the number of credits that students have to have under their belt by the time they get to the end of their 11th grade year and are moving into their senior year, they're going to have at least about 14.5 credits of their core credits taken care of. If they don't have them, the students who get behind tend to stay behind. All right, and so we built our eligibility requirements for this pathway with the idea that the students we are really truly trying to help are the ones that, for whatever reason, have found so many barriers to earning their credits with the traditional pathway that this is something that would really be a good fit for them. The bottom line is that we want to propose a pathway where high school students will earn a regular diploma by earning 16.5 credits in the West Allis, West Milwaukee School District. That would be the 15.5 credits required by the state of Wisconsin statutorily, as well as an additional credit that is specifically designed for career and college preparation. That's the end of our presentation, but I would love to get questions.
Mr. Lee.
I have a few questions. Number one, I read this whole document.
Yeah.
And got it. So there's a lot of good information here about things you do to monitor, things that you're going to be collecting to see how successful people who go into this program are, if they are able to graduate or not, which I think is very crucial with something like this when there is a difference and you're doing less than other people who are graduating from our district as far as how many credits that they're earning. However, these are the core credits. These are the credits that are going to matter most to trying to ensure that people have the proper education to be able to go out in the world and do what they want to do. So that's crucial, a critical piece of information, because number one, if we would approve this, I would want to know that information every year. I'd want to see, okay, how many people came in, how many people left, how many people were successful. I also would like, and again, this is going back to just generally people who leave our district, are they doing what they want to do after they leave? Like for me, it's not just getting them a piece of paper that says they graduated from high school. It's like they are prepared to go out in life and do what they want to do. That's more important to me than any test score or anything else that's going on.
They could have a D- average, but if they're doing what they want to do and they're a member of society that is helpful and useful, that's a win. That's good. And so I would love to see as part of this is some way to try and get those people who have left and graduated out of this program and say, hey, you noted before you graduated, you wanted to do this. Are you doing that? Are you doing something else? Where are you right now? So we could see, again, we're graduating people with fewer credits, but that graduation, that piece of paper allowed them the opportunity to do what they wanted to do. Because there was also information here about how people who don't have a diploma, a high school diploma, how much less earning potential they have and things like that. So I think that is a very big piece to this for me, is that it's not as many credits as the quote unquote regular high school students are going through and achieving, but they're getting the most important required ones by the state of Wisconsin. And they're doing it so that they can move on and do what they want to do next and not be stuck having to, now I got to study for the GED. Some people maybe aren't able to go back and do that for a plethora of reasons once you leave high school and you're like an adult and you're on your own, you got to do your own things. And it's a really big thing for someone to do, especially if they don't have the support maybe at home or else around a support system for them to actually get that done. My biggest concern about this is the ninth grade reading level. So they don't qualify for a go-to if they don't have a ninth grade reading level. I don't want to graduate a bunch of people who don't have a ninth grade reading level. So is there anything, I didn't see anything specifically in here about increasing that. I see that you say if they're coming in as a junior and then they qualify for go-to, they can move to that in their senior year. But I don't want, like, for me, that's a concern, right? Mm-hmm. Like if they can't read beyond ninth grade reading level, I mean, they can read, but that could be a very big barrier to them as they move forward in all what they want to do, right? So is there anything that's going to be focused on trying to increase that reading level for those students? Because if they're not qualifying for go-to, that's the reason why. Like if that's the only reason why they're not doing go-to is because they don't have the ninth grade reading level, and now they're doing this program, great, because I want them to continue. But how are we getting that up? So when they leave, they have at least something closer to where they should be when they're graduating from high school.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I will say that we would like to start collecting the data from our alumni. We don't have a system in place for that yet, but we are working on it. I think a lot of the data that is mentioned in this proposal is a prerequisite to being able to collect that. It's setting up the system to track our students. So that way, when they leave, we have a place to put it. I think with regard to the reading level, we have spent a lot of time in the last 2 years, especially working very hard to provide extra supports for all of our students who are showing that they are below grade level with their reading. I have 3 different live synchronous sessions that I run throughout each week. One of them meets 5 days a week. The other ones meet 3 times a week that are specifically for the students who are below reading level. Our school recently got access to HMH Ed Learning, and we are starting to get trained on how to implement Read 180 as well as Math 180 for our students so that we can provide extra support through that platform, especially for when students are not logged into a session. So between sessions, they are expected to work on this. And then that gives us more data to tell us where they are and what kinds of help they need more specifically. I think the general arc of where we're going with our school is more to gather enough data about our students as individuals so that we can serve them as individuals, and especially to serve those needs, those core needs, math and reading needs that are so critical to success, in the world beyond the walls of the school. And so, yes, you are. I am as concerned as anybody in this room about my students' reading levels, and we are currently working to address that. That is something that we review actually as part of the roundtable process that you see outlined in there, especially when we do the universal screeners 3 times a year through FastBridge. Our staff takes a look at that data and we try to figure out what is it showing, what can we change, And then one of the things that we're working on correlating going into next year is how that feeds into the data that will show up on WISE Dash. So when our school report card comes out, we're going to be able to look at the outcoming report card and say, that's no surprise to us. And a lot of our theory of action is built around like those improvements like this year and going into next.
All right, thank you. I think that's a very critical piece to this just because of that, the ninth grade reading level. And I can see that some individuals might see this, oh, you're just trying to push them through or get them through and improve your report card score. Whereas at the end of the day, that's not our goal. Our goal is to ensure that people get what they need as skills as an individual to do what they want to do. And I see this as a path to do that because these other elective courses, which are recommended but not required by the state to graduate, if they're behind, unfortunately, you're not gonna be able to do some of those things that might have been more interesting to you as far as those elective courses are. You need to focus on the things you need to get through high school to be able to graduate, but graduate as a functional member of society that can be able to hold the job and do what they want to do, not just get them out and say, oh yeah, we graduated them and off we go. Which I know there, some people might see that as a criticism. The other thing I think that is important to address, and I want to kind of hear your thoughts on, is Docky used to be an alternative high school. It was how it was called. And it was looked at as a place that people went when they needed credit recovery. And so DLVA is not designed to be that right now, right? And so what I don't want DVLA to be turned into is, oh, now that's the new credit recovery program you go to. If you're in DVLA, that's because you need credit recovery. So as your PR person, if this gets approved, how are you going to be like, this isn't just for that is included within our program, but we're also people who just, I don't like going to in-person school. I function better doing this from a mainly online perspective. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and back up my slide deck here. So I think the students that do really well at our school are the students that should be doing well at our school. And our school exists for those students. This is an enormous tautology, I realize that. But we are looking for students that are a good fit for what we offer as a school and a program. And that's going to be true for the kids who come to us who are like maybe gifted or talented, or maybe just kids who are doing well, right? And it's also going to be true for the kids who really need this as a pathway by the time they come to us in their 11th grade year, maybe even like they come to us in their 10th grade year. 9th grade didn't go so well, but we want them to come to us and we say, okay, you know what? We took a look at what your academic history is. We appreciated having a chance to have a conversation with you face to face when you came on board with us. And we have a plan. We have a plan. This is how we're gonna lay things out for right now, as soon as you come in and you're going with us. And we're gonna try and get you like all the way across the finish line, one way or the other. And the main thing for us is to have students with us that can meet our eligibility criteria, students with whom we can develop relationships through our regular outreach, students that we can empower to take control of the tools that we offer within our school. Those are the students who are going to come to us and are going to stay with us and are going to succeed with us, one way or the other, with or without this pathway, I think. And especially in terms of like that element of really knowing those critical skills, right? Like something that, I really focused on, like the reading, because you you focused on that, and I don't probably sometimes get enough sleep as much as I should because I'm thinking about the students and their reading. We really want our students to demonstrate mastery, again, regardless of the program. One of the things we do at our school is we set a threshold that we expect students to hit to pass their quizzes and exams. We want them to get a B- or higher. And if they don't get that, we want them to show us their guided notes. It's a worksheet. It's a graphic organizer. And then if they're still not hitting that threshold, like we ask them to come to office hours, whatever is the core subject. The teacher will say, hey, I saw you took another crack at that. I want to see you. I want to go through that with you. I want to see what you have to say. And we'll try and figure out like where I can support you a little bit better. And that's true of English, social studies, math, science, like whatever you call it. And so those students are going to succeed. That's our mission.
Thank you very much for that. So your process is very thorough. I mean, it's not like everyone who's in this situation automatically goes to DVLA and does this. There's quite a bit of criteria involved, and there's contracts about what those students are going to do if they are approved to be in the program, what sort of credit recovery they're going to get, their progress and all that sort of stuff. And if they don't get it, then they're going to not be able to continue in the program. So this is definitely not like a one-size-fits-all situation, and that you're picking candidates for this program who you feel, based on this very specific criteria, that will succeed in it, which is important. I'm also excited to hear about the potential of this being moved into our brick and mortar high schools as well. So it's not something where, in order to do this, I have to be in DVLA, because there might be kids who very much love being in school in person, but also need the same sort of program to be able to be successful in our schools. So looking at the potential expansion of that also was very exciting to me. So thank you very much for answering my questions.
Thank you for your questions.
All right. Are there any other questions from any other board members? Yep, John.
I don't really have much of a question, as much as just like Noah said, I read through the entire packet over the weekend. It's a personal passion project of mine. I was blown away by it. My son is going through credit recovery using Edgenuity. He's been doing that for a couple of years. I actually went through the GED program when I was 24, and I understand the stress level for taking those tests. I don't know. I mean, it's a lot harder than people think it is. And I think that the opportunity to create additional pathways for students to succeed and focus on those fundamental things, I think it's a really, really cool opportunity. I think it's a big deal, and I really like what's going on. I was just generally really impressed with it. So way to go.
Other questions, comments, concerns?
Not a question, just more of a comment. Just wanted to address sort of like the thinking behind this, and I kind of role played you when we were practicing this, because I had the same question though about DLVA sort of becoming a dumping ground of sorts, and so we are very, very much aware of that, and we are hell bent on making sure that that does not happen. We are the credit recovery will continue in our brick and mortar high schools. We're just really looking for a pathway that can benefit our entire district. And that's the thing. And it's just, this is also going to allow our counselors to really communicate ahead of time and identify students who are not tracking in the right way, and sort of create these plans ahead of time. And then if it gets to a point where they need to then go to a different program, we will be able to transition them over. But there's things that have to happen prior to. And, this is sort of like, when we get to that certain point, that's where we have to go. We're always trying to continue them down a traditional track. But at some point, if a kid is in 11th grade year and they're not earning credits, we got to do something different. Otherwise, they're going to be a dropout.
Yeah.
So that's our plan, is to really prevent that from happening. So just wanted to make that comment that we've discussed that.
Yeah, we hold the expectation of 24 credits just like anyone else. This is just advertised as a pathway, a potential pathway.
Yeah.
Our expectation at our school is 24
It does not
credits. And
change,
when
yeah.
we roundtable about our students, it is with the idea that they will get 24 credits.
Let me ask a follow-up question though. And I know we talked about this. Do you have any idea how many kids could be affected if this was implemented at your school?
Yeah, actually, we did gather that data. So based on the last roundtable we did on March 3rd, for our 25-26 school year cohort. So this is like the current juniors who will be seniors next year. We have of the total of 19.2% that we think might be good candidates for go-to. We looked at their FastBridge scores. We looked at how they're doing in English, and we take into consideration how many credits they would need in order to get through. We have 11. There's about 42.3% that would be like a traditional 24 credit pathway. These are students that even if they don't have the full amount you might want them to have going into their senior year. These are students that we're thinking, given a little work over the summer and maybe like an extra class or two, well, hopefully just one per like semester, will get them to that point.
And a little extra support.
And a
from the team.
little,
a lot of extra support from us.
a little
Lots of phone
extra
calls.
support. So Dr. Smith has her list of scholars that she spends extra time reaching out to every week that the staff gives her. And so like they're well communicated with. And then we have about 38.5%. That's about 10 students that we were considering would be good candidates for this. It might end up being maybe 7 based on our current cohort. I mean, I do not know who's going to be here in the fall. We're just looking at the students we have in front of us. But between 7 or 10, so about 38.5%, we would probably look at this being like the pathway for them, assuming that they choose to stay with us. And these are students that we would plan to be staying with us through like the summer up into next year as well. So all the students that we considered for this roundtable are students that we consider to be meeting the eligibility criteria or close enough to it with sufficient support that we would expect them to be successful.
Yes, Mr. Lee.
I just had a question. Do we have any idea how many in our other brick and mortar high schools would meet this criteria for this program?
I don't have the data on that tonight, but that's something that I can gather and we can discuss and bring to you next week.
I just think that as we discuss this, if there's something as an option that's been discussed as expanding to brick and mortar, it'd be a good idea to see what sort of workload that might entail and what additional staffing would be required at those schools to be able to implement this program. So I just interested in all the numbers, I guess.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Now, I believe I read that there was a cap number on the number of students that were allowed to do the Go-To program, right? There was eligibility plus a certain number that it was available to.
There's a certain number of students that can be enrolled at one moment in time,
Yeah,
but
so
we
as
are
one complete-
constantly bringing students forward and they're moving through the program. And then once they're done with their assessments, which whatever content areas they need to do, then we can fill those seats.
So, and this wouldn't have a cap like that though, hypothetically.
Total school cap. We do have an admissions policy where we hit a limit of 225 students,
But that would theoretically be the cap then.
and that's based on
Okay.
the number of teachers we have. up
So like
front.
hypothetically, all
Teacher
of the
to student
students could be
ratio.
on this pathway if everyone qualified.
If it was necessary.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
And can I just, to clarify on that too, like, again, the way we built it is assuming that we keep doing our current practice. So for us, this work layers into the work that we're already doing. So for us, the goal was that this integrates with the way we already conduct roundtables on our students. It would just be like one extra comment to have, really, and to make sure that the cohort advisors are reaching out to those students and their families as we go along. So that for that 225 cap, like even though it might sound like, oh, in theory, you might have like another 100 students who are coming to do this, like if those students meet the eligibility criteria consistently and remain in good standing with us, they're just going to be our students, and it's not going to be like an additional thing for us. We're staffed appropriately for it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to actually comment on as well, is that our practices are built for this. This won't require us to have to learn anything new. We've already been doing exactly this practice this whole school year.
Right, and you said that this is using the Edgenuity program as
Yes,
well,
correct.
which
That is the foundation.
is already being used for credit recovery in the other schools. So, that would also facilitate integrating this program into the brick and mortar facilities as well. Then, okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Lee.
Yes, but we still would need additional staff because there would be a
For
space that those students would have to go to.
in-person.
Someone has
For
to watch
in-person,
those students. So there is additional beyond just
I
that
mean,
piece
they
of
don't
it.
have to use Edgenuity either in person. If they could blend it. If the student loves going to English class, they can go to English, and they don't like going to chemistry, they can do Edgenuity chemistry. there's a lot more options when you're talking about in person. With us, it has to be a student who is set up to make it through virtual learning. And we do have eligibility criteria, and we do talk about our students all the time, and we're very thorough. So that's why I don't feel like there's any, we could never push a student through, because the student's not going to show up and do the work. They won't meet our eligibility criteria. They will not be eligible for our program.
And just to be clear, I don't think
No,
that's happening in
No,
any,
we
any
understand.
stretch of
No,
the imagination.
that I just, you said some people might think that, and
Yes,
the reality
yes,
of our
some
side of
people
it, I'm
might.
like, whoa, it's a lot of work. So
There's people in our community who will think that.
Yes,
So that's why I
yes,
just
yes. I don't
clearly
think you
state this
think
as
that.
clear as possible
Yeah.
for them.
yes.
All right. Any other questions, queries? I do have a question / comment, and it kind of goes with the initial question that was posed by Mr. Lee with like, what is the PR and what's that? So I know that it looks like we're leveraging this for students that are in need for XYZ reasons. And I think that that's fantastic. I think it's great to open up extra pathways. With that said, is there the ability to open up additional pathways for the students that can get enough credits, but maybe they want more, or for the kids that are coming into high school and they know that they want to go and be a welder or an electrician or something else, where that accelerated, because it could then be an accelerated program, and then they could do like a work collab in their juniors and senior years. They could do capstone projects. They could do other things that would then be in the school, or they could work more towards the collaboration with MATC and getting some of those, certifications or licenses ahead of time. So like, I feel like we're only looking at one end with this one. And do we have an idea of looking at our other end? Because I think that this would be very lucrative for all of our students.
So I'll say this. I think that's an option within the guidelines that DPI lays out. I think we're trying to make sure that we're doing things in compliance with their regulations first. And so this is where we've landed with this particular program. I think in the future we could look for some sort of expansion, but that's going to depend on the guidelines that they require. And a lot of times when you're talking about licensing and things of that nature, it may also have some other requirements that may not be required in this program. So we have to kind of work through those things as well. So it's going to be a process, if that makes sense.
I mean, process is fine. I just hope that we look at it to leverage this resource, because I don't, again, then that also works with our PR so that you are both ends in the middle, and whoever just needs that extra space.
I mean, like we're constantly evolving to try and meet our students like where their needs are. And right now, I think one of the benefits of the way we administer our virtual learning is that students are expected to be on pace in order to complete their stuff on time. If students choose to work at an accelerated rate, they also can do that. Already. Now that's with like the basic coursework that we offer. One of the things that we're looking to try and figure out, and hopefully the district can like partner with us on this or help us provide more for our Edgenuity elective offerings for the students who want to pursue more specific things, especially with like the CTE pathway. Edgenuity offers a lot of things for that. And this year we have the benefit of an awesome guidance counselor who's been working with us part-time, who also works at DACI. And she's been continuously like stepping up more and more to help us get our practices in place to support students who want to pursue those kinds of certifications, such as like dual enrollment, to do those kinds of things. And so this is something like we're in the early stages of starting to do this, and it's not systematized yet, but I think that like the vision is to be able to help the students that come to us, again, like wherever they are in their journey.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else before we?
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you all for your
Thank you.
time.
All right, and with that, we then have our leadership and learning, the 612 math curriculum. All right. Yeah. So, all right. Welcome. And we will get into our leadership and learning 612 math curriculum. Welcome. Take over.
Awesome. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for hanging in with us. We'll try to be as succinct as possible, but also this is going to be a pretty thorough overview of our process for bringing ultimately a proposal to you all for a 612 math adoption. And here's our full math adoption team. You can see there's representation across all of our secondary sites. Here in person, we have Chris Larischke, who is really the force behind this adoption this year. So he's going to talk a lot about the adoption process that he went through with this full team over the course of the past 7 months. We also have Krista Arnold and Melissa Bever here, who are two fantastic teachers and teacher and instructional coordinator, and they'll be contributing kind of their perspectives of this throughout this process. And we also have two members from the Carnegie team, Sadi and Sharice, who are here in the back. So they're here just for the latter end when there are questions, if there's anything you want to directly ask them. And so tonight we're going to walk through, this is kind of just a quick overview of what you'll hear from us today. We'll do introductions, share the timeline, the overview of McGraw-Hill Reveal, which was one of the resources that the committee decided to pilot, as well as Carnegie Learning, talk through what our consensus process looked like, and then our recommendation and budget impacts. Bless you. And this is just a review of our curriculum adoption process. So right now we are currently in year 2, which is the curriculum design and resource adoption. So this is where we have gone through all of these steps up until bringing you this proposal this evening. So explore different curricular resources for the content area of secondary math, piloted materials and gathered feedback from a diverse group of stakeholders, which Chris will talk more about, and then bringing forth a recommendation of a core resource that we believe is going to really move the needle for our secondary students in their mathematical abilities, reasoning, and collaboration also within the mathematic classroom. So I am going to hand it off to Chris Larischke, who's going to walk you through this next portion.
Thank you, Alyssa. Good evening. Just for those that don't know me, I'm Chris Larischke. I'm the coordinator of secondary instruction for the district. One of the things I wanted to start off with our math curriculum adoption is just kind of giving you a brief overview of what our current resources are in 612 math. Currently in 6th through 8th grade, as well as Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry at the high school level, we use a McGraw-Hill product. It's actually called a Glencoe product. That company doesn't exist anymore, but it's a McGraw-Hill product. And then we use an Alex for our supplemental online resource, so our computer-based resource that is used throughout the classrooms. And then on the upper level elective courses, our adoption was largely focused on our 612 or core classes that every student takes. Our upper level and elective courses, our resources vary by course. They also vary in their timeline given things like AP when they update their curriculum, things like that. So it's more of our core classes that are on this cycle. The next two slides focus on just kind of an overview of our review timeline. We started in the fall by getting a team together to start looking at some potential resources based off feedback from not only the team, but feedback from independent reviews of curriculums and resources that are out there. Throughout the fall then, our team met on several nights to not only narrow down our resources by reviewing what we liked about them, what we didn't like about them, how it corresponded to our data and most up-to-date standards. Eventually bringing down or narrowing it down to 3 resources to come in and give a formal presentation to our team throughout the early fall. Throughout the later part of the fall then into the early part of the winter, our team narrowed down their choices to McGraw-Hill through their Reveal Math program, which is kind of the successor to the program we had. And then Carnegie Learning's math program was the 2 that they selected to pilot. As we got into the winter, that's when the pilots started. We started in January with the middle schools and the high school teachers. High school waited till the start of the second semester, just kind of a natural timeline to start a new product. Throughout January and February, we piloted Carnegie first. Throughout that time, we also received some on-site coaching from one of Carnegie's coaches who did some classroom walks with myself, with Ms. Bever, with Alyssa, as well as other administrators, just to make sure we were using the product well. They were able to give us some feedback from not only on our pedagogy, but also how we were using the resource. From there into the latter part of the winter and early part of spring, we then piloted McGraw-Hill and the Reveal math platform. Throughout that process, we did also receive some on-site coaching visits as well. And again, just like Carnegie, it's there to make sure we're using the product correctly, we're not missing anything, and then they're able to give us feedback on how to make sure we're using it to the most effective way. Finally, then our team met in early April to make a recommendation, taking into account feedback from all stakeholders, from teachers, from staff, from students, as well as their experience using the resource in their classrooms to make the recommendation to our board that we would recommend Carnegie Learning be adopted for the 612 math curriculum, again, for the 6 through 8 courses, and then the Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry at the high school level. So before we get into Carnegie, we wanted to briefly just kind of touch on McGraw-Hill, kind of why our team felt like this was a resource they did not want to move forward with, but still wanted to make sure that we gave it its due process. So you guys kind of had some background too on what they saw from this resource. Our pilot, this was actually the second one that we piloted, so we didn't start till March, and we've finished up in mid-April. With this resource, their instructional approach focused on a launch, explore and develop, and then reflect and practice. Basically, the launch piece, let's get students interested in what we're about to be learning about. The explore and develop then is kind of more the teacher-led, ensuring the grade level, on-level instruction. And then that reflect and practice piece where the students are then demonstrating what did they learn and then getting that feedback on it. Next slide. So just kind of summarizing some of the feedback from across the board. I mentioned earlier when we were talking about selecting resources, we tried to rely on some independent reviews of these curriculums. We relied on an organization called EdReports, which does some very, very thorough reviews of math curriculums as they're produced. They also do science and ELA as well. We shared some of that with our curriculum committee a few weeks ago. Both of the products that we reviewed, and in this case talking about McGraw-Hill, did receive a green rating of meets expectations. That is the highest rating that EdReports gives. That's kind of like a default. I don't know why you would go below that. So that's kind of like our starting point, right? Is like if it doesn't meet, if it's not at that green rating, we're not even considering it. So both McGraw-Hill and Carnegie did meet that expectations, that highest rating from EdReports at independent review. Some of the things that our staff, students, and others did like about McGraw-Hill and that review platform, there was a level of familiarity with it. Again, it is our current resources and McGraw-Hill platform, so there wasn't a ton of front loading that was required to use some of the online resources such as Alex. The platform was different for teachers. It was obviously an updated platform, but as far as how the lessons were structured, as far as some of the, again, going back to Alex and that online platform, there was, again, a level of familiarity for all involved. There was a big support for some of the progress monitoring tools that McGraw-Hill offered. They offered some using some tools that allowed kind of like personalized lessons to be assigned to students based off some of the data that we were able to input into their system. So that was a big hit with some of the teachers. But all things considered, there were some more concerns coming from McGraw-Hill's program, specifically around some of the lesson design. We Ms. Bever can talk to this as well, especially trying to promote some of those deeper learning competencies around collaboration. Some of the feedback from our teachers were they did not feel that this program helped promote some of that in the classroom. The setup of Reveal is a little bit more traditional, and I mean traditional in a negative way, but it's much more of a teacher goes through it. Here's your set of practice problems, and then we kind of go through the practice problems. Our feedback from our staff was they found it difficult to support some collaborative work in the classroom as it relates to that. The other piece of it that stuck out from the staff was the rigor side of things. They did not feel that McGraw-Hill's Reveal program really challenged our students as much as comparatively speaking to Carnegie. So as we took all those into account, again, our staff felt very strong towards Carnegie. Excuse me. So we're going to run through Carnegie's approach in a little bit more in depth. They have a very similar lesson structure as McGraw-Hill. This engage, develop, and demonstrate. Again, very similar in the sense of the engage piece is there to try to hook students in, get them interested in what the learning is. Often it's based off some sort of real world scenario, real world information. We're going to go through a lesson example about rock climbing, that the whole activity was built around the rock climbing piece, and the students kept drawing back to that. That pilot date, this was the first one that we piloted. So our pilot started in mid-January, went through February. So an example lesson approach that the teacher might see, and I recognize this is small and probably I can't read it, so we have some bigger pictures on the next slides. It starts with that engage piece. So getting started, again, there's kind of that hook activity to get them interested in the lesson. And as we go through the lesson, there are several activities that the teacher is able to then have some autonomy over in terms of how they're able to assign those to students. Is that something we want to lead through as a class? Is that something we'd like to lead through where kids are working collaboratively or individually? Their lessons are set up to go over what they call 2 sessions, which is roughly 90 minutes or so. So again, some autonomy and some flexibility in there for the teachers in terms of how they want to structure those lessons to fit into either 50 minutes at the high schools or 83 minutes at the intermediate schools. So one of the examples that I wanted to put up here, and Ms. Bever, at some point, if you feel free to jump in with this one too, since it was a middle school lesson. One of the examples that we put up here from a middle school activity, this was from a 7th grade course. So this was an activity 2. So students would have done an engage lesson or an engage activity already, as well as an activity 1 to kind of build some groundwork. But this activity starts out with some information about rock climbing, El Capitan in Yosemite National Park, and gives some students some basic information about the rate at which these 2 individuals were climbing up this rock face. And then as each question goes through, students are taking that information from that initial scenario, that initial piece of information, and they're building towards more difficult questions each time. So initially, some of this is kind of review. So it's talking about average, kind of some review information. As they go through to number 2, continues to build on it with some adjustments in some of the information that they have. And then I skipped ahead a couple of questions here. But then it kind of gets to the whole goal of this lesson was focusing on plotting some points on a graph. So using that information and then kind of building all the way to the point where they're able to not only come up with the independent, dependent variables, but then put that information on a graph. Ms. Bever, can you add to discuss that maybe from like the collaboration piece of that?
So the idea with these activities is that they're working as a group, in groups for the collaboration, the student engagement. A lot of, we had a teacher that tried to, like the building thinking classrooms idea, where they just went up to whiteboards where they worked, where it got them up and moving, more engaged. The movement helps, their brain activity. So I think there's how many activities? 3? So you could do all 3.
3 to 4, depending on the lesson. Yeah.
All of them try it, or some groups will do 1, some groups will do 2, some groups will do 3 if they have to cut down time.
Ms. Arnold, could you talk about a high school lesson and kind of how that structures there?
One thing I would add is there's an opener before everything, which has the learning targets added right in it too. So with the district being with learning targets right now, that makes it very easy for me to know what my I can statements are. And they're right there. So I started out reading those right with the students. So that was very nice for me. Easy to have the lesson. I could look at it the morning of and be able to teach it. I could have a sub come into my Algebra 1 class, an English teacher, and they could go through and teach this lesson for how the teacher guide was written. Very easy for somebody else to follow. You would not want somebody doing that every day, but it was enough where it was written in a way that somebody could follow and pull a lesson together. The getting started was in the same order, and then the activities, and it averaged with the 1, 2, or 3 activities. I myself in the beginning had a hard time skipping the activities. I felt I had to do everything with it, but then when the coaches came around and were helping me in my classroom, they helped me see where, okay, well, this one matches up to this one. You could use this as a homework assignment, or you could use this as this group is doing this group is doing this. So it was really neat to see that actual coaching piece where I had the options of more problems and I didn't have to use all of them for every lesson. But they were there if I needed them. I actually went back then and used some of them for reviews before we did our test and tied it back in. One thing I noticed was I had kids, 9th grade students, that were actually working with other students. Beginning, they didn't want to talk to each other. We're coming from all different middle schools and they don't know each other. And all of a sudden, we're now talking math. And I just sat there one day and went, oh my gosh, this is so neat. This is so cool. And when we were done piloting this, we went back to the old normal and I went, oh, this is not good. So it's been hard going back to what we have been doing. We've been trying to get back to it and we haven't had that same connection. So I'm really hoping that we can go back to this and have more with this and get back into this group talk, and with having middle school doing the same thing that we're doing, just having that connection. Because I think you guys saw that group talk and having real life problems where you're talking about climbing a cliff. Not that they necessarily are going to do that, but there's so many different vocabulary things you can click on with this that makes it real for them, that if they don't know what cutting the grass was, I could click on a slide and it took me to something that explained what cutting the grass was. And I was just like, this is so neat that it was like, it was all right there, that it could meet anybody's level right there in that same lesson.
So as part of our process, in addition to some of the staff feedback, we wanted to hear some feedback from students as well as families. So up on this page just relates to Carnegie Learning. Again, I mentioned previously that it did also meet our green rating of meets expectations from med reports from that independent review. Some of the strengths that were shared regarding Carnegie and its platform was the wide variety of assignments students were asked to complete throughout. So Ms. Bever and Ms. Arnold kind of touched on them already. The collaborative nature of those lessons was received really positively. Some of the online resources were also, we got some positive feedback about that. One of the things that was really well liked by our team was within the workbooks, and you have some of the sample student books in front of you. There were some like QR codes that students or families could scan to get some additional help depending on the lesson. So if they're, the student was working at home, there's a resource there. So all those types of things we're seeing as strengths throughout this process. This did not come without some considerations, those things that we do need to keep in mind as we go forward. Related to some of those online hints, one of the things it doesn't do, which we think is a good thing, but might take some adjustment, it doesn't just give you the answer. It does ask you to kind of go through and ask some questions, and so you're not just going to scan the code and then all of a sudden get the answer to the question. It asks the students to consider other possibilities or ask them kind of probing questions along the way. There is a reality that the platform is it would be a new platform. So as I was in some classrooms, working with, observing, seeing how it was going, there were little things along, just following the directions the right way. Like there's a student in the 6th grade classroom that I can recall that kept getting an answer wrong, and we realized because he wasn't hitting enter, he was hitting putting the right answer in, and I was sitting next to him, and we realized he didn't hit enter, right? So these little intricacies of a new platform, it's just something we'll have to consider and make sure that that we're front loading. As we got some student feedback, though, some of the considerations around the engagement piece, at least initially, students perceive some of these lessons to be initially less engaging. And overall, our student feedback was more positive around McGraw-Hill's Reveal program than Carnegie. But the interesting part of that conversation, and actually, Ms. Arnold and Ms. Bever, I'd appreciate your insights with this as well, is some of that feedback then from students anecdotally was around kind of some of the things we had mentioned that, well, the platform is new, so it was kind of unfamiliar. One piece of feedback I heard from a student was, had I been doing this in September, they were asked to do this in January when we started the Carnegie Learning. Had I been doing this in September, it would have been less confusing. It would have made a little bit more sense. So some of those things anecdotally kind of came back in our conversations with students and some of the feedback they had provided. Ms. Bever, Ms. Arnold, if you feel free to jump in on that.
I would say it's a shift for them too in their learning. They take on more of the brain work than the teacher does.
With Mathia, our algebra, she did geometry, right, Moreau?
Algebra 2.
She did algebra 2. Her students absolutely loved the Mathia program, and they requested to go back to it instead of working on Alex. They have actually been using parts of it here and there since then also. It can be very finicky with it. Like you said, if you don't hit the enter button, but again, it's not something we're used to using. I was doing something with graphing and we were not sure how to graph the line. So it was a learning experience. And once my students were told that it was okay to make mistakes and you weren't being graded on it, then it was like, oh, well, let me try this. So that whole learning curve, and with them grading the reveal higher, a lot of mine were just because they didn't like something different. And they said that to me when they filled it out. I don't want to do it. I just want to do what we're doing. We're just going to stick with Alex because I know how to do Alex and I know how to look it up on how to find answers for Alex. And I went, I know, that's why we need a change. So it was frustrating when I saw the survey results come through with the algebra, and I'm like, I knew you guys were going to do that. So it isn't surprising that they had that, but the Mathia part of it, I myself didn't get to check out nearly as much as I would have liked to, because I was really focused on the book and trying to see the questions and the activities and the getting students talking together. But then after the fact, when I've gone in and looked at it, it's very interesting to me to see how it does tie right along with it and how it will be an interesting connection with it.
And to clarify, Mathia is Carnegie's online learning platform. Just make sure we're clear. So in addition to that, then our committee that you saw at the first couple of slides there had some significant feedback as well around the platform, as well as things that we need to consider. I just want to highlight a couple of them. Ms. Arnold and Ms. Bever have already hit on a few of them. Some of the real world application was a big hit with our pilot committee, as well as a strong connection to standards. Ms. Arnold had mentioned the learning targets and the standards, how they align to our I can statements. Each lesson very clearly identifies what standard we are supposed to be teaching and ensures that we're teaching at grade level, which is something that, we want to make sure that we can ensure when our students are in the classroom that they're getting the appropriate grade level instruction. Beyond that, one of the most powerful pieces of feedback anecdotally heard from a teacher was the strong connection to the forward exam. And he had shared with our committee that he had several students point out that, hey, I saw a question very similar to something we learned from this Carnegie pilot on the forward exam. So they're just seeing some of those connections to some of those external measures was some feedback that the teachers shared with our team as well. The last one I just want to highlight there is the emphasis on the math discourse. On one of I believe it's the geometry book that I have shared with you, I flagged a page that talked about, they call it Talk the Talk, which asks students not just to get the right answer, but be able to talk through the process. Do you know how you got to that answer? Can you explain some of the finer points of it? Are you using the appropriate academic discourse while you're doing that? That was something that our staff had some very positive feedback about. Some of the areas of consideration within Carnegie, though, again, some of them we've touched on. Some of the, again, just it's a different platform. It's a shift for some of our students. One of them that came back was the ability to edit some of the assessments and some of the lessons. So the assessments were our team felt were long in the sense of students even just having the ability to complete them during that time period. We did pass that along to our team over there from Carnegie, who did let us know that shift is going to be happening in the fall, where our staff will be able to edit those assessments, pair them back, adjust the questions, things like that. Just was not a function of their online platform yet when we were piloting there. So our team did like that they were taking our feedback and immediately making some adjustments to some of their platform as well. The only other thing to point out with just kind of areas of consideration that we're paying special attention to, as well as that current scope and sequence will require some updating. That's a process that we are going through anyway with our math work on a 612 level, in terms of just solidifying where our standards are being taught, ensuring that they're being taught at the correct levels. The sequencing of some of the ways the topics are taught in Carnegie, our feedback from our staff was that it's just a little bit different order. Doesn't necessarily mean it's right or wrong, but just a different order from McGraw-Hill. So that just would require some additional updates to some of those GDCs. Again, work that we are doing anyway, but just something that we felt was worth noting. One of the last things then I just wanted to briefly walk through is just walk you through our process for this. We kind of gave an overview of kind of the timeline piece of it, but just wanted to talk you through how we came to this consensus around this particular program. So I copied some of these slides directly from the night when we made our decision. What we wanted to make sure that we did is that everybody had a chance to share their voice. Everyone had a chance to share their experience with it. And then also had our 912 team here from our 6-8 team and vice versa, so they could see some of the strengths and some of the weaknesses of each program and how they felt. So what we had them do is just put some of the strengths and weaknesses, again, very public conversation in our committee meeting, so that both sides could review again how the high school and how the intermediate schools felt about the process. It's just a repeat of the same thing for McGraw-Hill. And then what we asked them to do, what we said was our goal here is to build consensus, right? So it's okay if people feel differently about a program or have different levels of support. We wanted to get it to a level 2, 3, or 4. So level 2 indicating like, hey, I can live with this. Maybe it's not wouldn't have been my number one choice, but I can support the implementation of this, all the way to a 4, which is, hey, this is 100% on board, no doubt. The level 1 was we used as a process to say, as a rating of like, if I give this a 1, I can't move forward. And we need to have that conversation then as a team to kind of talk through what are the concerns. Staff members were asked to share their reasoning for support, and we had that conversation regardless of the level of support. But that level 1 was kind of like that hinge point for us, that if we had a level 1 rating for any of the resources, we needed to like pause and say like, all right, if we can't move forward because we have a staff member that feels very strongly, we need to honor those feelings, and let's talk through about what we can do to either address those concerns or what we need to do to move forward. So as we did that, we asked the staff, or asked the committee at the beginning and then the end of our recommendation meeting to affirm those 3 things to make sure that they felt that their voice was heard and that they were able to share their feeling about which resource they wanted to move forward with. Finally, then our show of support for the resource that they had preferred was just taking some Post-it notes and putting them up on some bigger Post-it notes, but having then a conversation around that work following that vote. If you look at, we really like this visual in terms of trying to understand our staff's feedback after taking into consideration their experience, the feedback from students and others. It was very clear to our team where they wanted to move forward with. Being that we had a much clearer, higher rating for Carnegie in their math program.
And so with that, with any adoption, there's of course a budgetary impact. Before I go into the different components that would be included in a partnership with Carnegie Learning for our adoption cycle, is I've been working closely with our business team and Aaron Norris around getting into like a consistent cycle with adoptions so that it's predictable and that our large scale adoptions do happen in a way that they can predict and plan for these curricular resources. And we know that like a foundational aspect of any strong instructional programming within schools is that we have high quality materials in front of students. And so with that, On the left side, under components, you'll see the different aspects that would be included in our partnership with Carnegie, which is the different level courses. And within each of those courses, that would include teacher implementation guides, which is what Krista was speaking to, is really helpful and easy to follow for teachers. Teacher online access, student printed math books, which you see in front of you. Those are consumables and would become every year we would receive those. Students have online access, and then we would have launch PD in August for all teachers of every course, as well as a launch PD for our leadership team. So making sure that our principals, assistant principals, and instructional coordinators can really speak to this curricular resource and how to support the implementation of it district-wide across our 612 classrooms. And then the on-site coaching and support, Chris and I have already developed or mapped out a plan for how we would use those days. One thing that we heard loud and clear from the teachers who piloted is that the coaching support from Carnegie was really strong. So strong that I asked Sadi if we could have the same coach if we were to move forward with Carnegie. But she assured me all of them are phenomenal, but they really were able to, the coach that we worked with was really able to be alongside teachers and give really pointed, specific, helpful feedback. And that speaks volumes because we do these adoptions and that's not always the response that we get from teachers around the coaches that are provided for us. So on-site coaching and support, which would include walks with our leadership team. So again, our leadership team needs to fully understand the curricular resources we're using and how they can support that in their work through coaching and evaluation and collaborative teamwork. And then on-site coaching and support for year 2 as well. So that would be the full budgetary impact for 8 years with the Carnegie learning program. And so with that, Chris has a quick overview of just kind of our implementation thoughts for the next year.
Yeah, we just, as Alyssa had mentioned, had tentatively kind of sketched out a timeline for implementation, really starting before the end of the school year, making sure that all of our teachers have online access and teacher review guides prior to leaving for the summer. We want to make sure that they have that information as soon as possible. Throughout the summer, doing some updating of the scopes and sequence, and then with our leadership training in August. Our whole goal around this was to build this around our existing PD days. So try to bring Carnegie coaches in for around our PD days and then schedule some on-site walks and on-site classroom visits in the immediate days following. So really trying to make sure that there's a connection to what we're doing on those PD days throughout that first year of implementation.
And with that, we are all here for any questions that you have at 8:13 p.m. Yes.
Thank you very much. And all right, well, so questions already going, so we'll work around. Ms. Kaiser.
So one comment is my school uses this for our middle school and they've been very happy with it. My other question is, that's a very large amount of money. I'm just wondering, is that a general average amount we would expect to pay during for a math curriculum for a school our size?
Yes. So on average, I would say for English and math adoptions, either at the full elementary or full secondary, you're looking at around $1 million. And again, we have a long adoption cycle, the 8-year cycle, where some districts may choose to go shorter. But some of the benefits to doing an 8-year cycle, on average, the research says between 6 and 10 years. We also want to align it to be fiscally responsible, to not be updating resources, especially to this level, on a shorter scale than 6 years at the minimum. And if we think about an implementation, we'll be going into year 5 with Scholastic. And I feel like this past year is where we've really been able to fully understand it. And of course, we're always onboarding new staff too into these, but so the short answer is yes. I think it's pretty comparable for the length of our cycle.
No, that's fine. My school works on a 8-year cycle as well, so I completely understand. I guess more so, I just want to make sure anyone watching are understanding that this is money that we have also budgeted for.
Yes.
Correct? Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, Mr. Keller.
Yeah, that answered one of mine. Was it budgeted for and was that planned? I mean, I know it was, but did it fall in line? And it sounds like it did with
Yep,
kind of
so-
what we had planned.
Yes, so we're on a cycle, and we have the full, I can pull that up, the full map of what
Mhm.
that looks like. Maybe I'll stop sharing and then I can pull that up. And so we want to rotate again, doing those large math and ELA adoptions that do run around $1 million or less. I mean, trust me, I've already pared it back as best I could to align with our needs. But also we want to ensure that on the other years, we're doing other adoptions that aren't as heavy. And that is in collaboration again with our business team and the budget cycle for Wisconsin. So we can predict that we have this money budgeted for available.
Good. The other thing I wanted to ask, I saw that for high school, it encompasses algebra, geometry, advanced algebra. What do we use? Because remind us again what we use for some of our more advanced mathematics classes after advanced algebra.
Yeah, and on the upper level math courses, once they get past Algebra 2, it really varies by the course. So like and that's a process that Alyssa and myself, in collaboration with the teachers of those upper level courses, are working through to see which ones need to be updated based off, for example, we were looking at AP stats. Well, AP is coming out with a new curriculum in a year, so we're going to hold off on AP stats. So those things are not working on the same cycle. Also, as there also are not as many publishers offering some of those. So it just really kind of, it varies on where and when those were also adopted. So some of those books are no longer in print from publishers that no longer exist. Some of them we have found updated versions of. So it just kind of it depends on the course and depends on what level that we're talking about. I've connected with a publisher earlier this week that only offers AP Calc. It doesn't offer any other the AP math courses, right? So that one was Savas Learning. So it depends on the course really for that one.
Okay. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions? Mr. Lee?
So if we adopt this, are we not using Alice anymore in secondary level?
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, Alex would still, we have our contract with Alex, it does not run in cycle with the current resource. So that we actually have Alex beyond this school year. No, there would still be a role for Alex, particularly in working with students to get them up to grade level. The way the Mathia software works with Carnegie is it's more designed to be used in the lesson at the grade level, like the grade level material that's being taught that particular day. So no, there still certainly could be a role for Alex. Again, our contract still goes on for another, I believe, through next school year as well. And that needs to be part of our conversation to think about which resources we're using for some of our work on some of our workforce students when we talk about some of our intervention work. So certainly could still be part of that conversation, is part of it at least through next year. And then going forward, we'd have to do kind of an evaluation of that.
There is no, as you said, intervention piece to this particular math resource. So if we, and you're saying that Alex is that piece currently? The
Yes.
intervention is Alex right now in secondary, and the McGraw-Hill piece doesn't have its own intervention?
Correct.
We currently use?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm trying to see how these fit together,
Yeah.
right? So we're paying for Alex, we're paying for McGraw-Hill, now we're looking at paying for Carnegie. So if it doesn't have everything we need, yes, the evaluation of Alex, which I don't see on this list, is something that.
Right, this is for a core resource.
This is
Alex
core
is a
resource.
supplementary resource.
So there's a separate one for supplemental?
Yes, so with supplemental resources, we're currently, and that's part of our district team's work, is reviewing and in collaboration with Dr. Robinson on supplemental resources to support targeted and or intensive instruction. That's not something that has been regularly, I would say, reviewed. And so that is something we're doing for both elementary and for secondary.
Because Alex isn't only used for interventions for those who are not meeting grade level. It's also used sometimes to allow students to accelerate.
Correct.
And so does this have that ability?
Does Matthew have that ability for acceleration?
So within the Carnegie lessons, there are what they call stretch assignments that would
Mhm.
allow students to then go beyond like what the grade level learning target is for that particular lesson.
Okay. But they wouldn't really be able to work ahead themselves beyond what was being taught in class.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why our team from Carnegie is here.
You got to come to the mic.
Thank you for jumping in, Sharice.
Yeah, no problem.
That's
So
why
good evening. I'm Dr. Crawford with Carnegie Learning. So I just want to answer that question. So it does allow a student the opportunity to accelerate within the program. So in fact, when a teacher if a student is in sixth grade, a teacher has access to seventh, eighth, all the way through Algebra 2. So if there are two ways that can happen. A teacher can assign those things to a student and open it up for them and let them keep going, or they could do it individually. So I hope that answers your question, that yes, it does allow a student to accelerate in the program up to Algebra 2 if that is an option available by the teacher.
Can we do the opposite then and assign lower things?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And is there like any sort of like dashboard or something so that a teacher can look at the students in their class and see like where they are in the lesson as far as like the concepts that they're supposed to be getting? Are they getting them? Are they not getting them as far as when they're using that online piece?
Yeah, Ms. Arnold or Ms. Bever, you want to talk to that since you
Yes, and that was one of the things that we were talking about where hitting enter, they have to fill a wheel, it
Mhm.
looks like. And that's where in the beginning of the year, we'll have to have those lessons on, rushing is not what you need to do because you'll have to be slow to fill your wheel up because it can be one little thing that is not filling your wheel. I had a student too that was not putting a negative with one of the numbers and was getting very frustrated, but just by slowing them down and showing them, it was like, oh, and then filled it in. So they are filling in like these little sprocket things. And then I can see all of that on my end of it too, just like how Alex had all of that stuff too. Yeah.
Right. I'm glad to hear that because I think that's an important piece for.
It's very teacher friendly.
Yeah.
Very teacher friendly.
Good.
May I also add in that along with that, teachers they have about 4 to 5 different reports available to them that will also tell them what skills and or standards students may or may not be mastering at that time. And then it will group the students for them as well so that they know who's at proficiency, who's almost there, and who needs a little bit of additional support. So there are 5 reports that will collect that data for the teachers as well.
Thank you. And the last question I have is actually, is this really the best price that we can get for our district? Like we can't go better than almost $1 million? We have a lot of bills to pay. I mean, I hate being nickel and dime. $5,000 to having to pay for professional development for our district and building leaders. I mean, that just seems like something that should happen so that we can implement this effectively.
I'm the sales representative. I'm Sadi. It's nice to see you this evening. That's my role, and forgive me, I have a little bit of congestion, but so we negotiated, we went back and forth a little bit on the pricing and looking at 2 things. One would be discounting, and the other one is that long-term price. So the longer you go for implementation, the longer the contract, the steeper the discount. So a lot of the times when you're halfway there, it's over double the price for half of the years. We included the professional learning, all of the launch sessions, so all of the PL. I wish we could put those dollars on there, but all of the PL for the initial launch for all of the courses is included at no cost. We included a support person who's going to be the go-to person that is typically $7,000 a year for a district for 5 years, so that you have one person that you always go to not only have customer support for roster integration, but also support for the leadership to be looking at the reports, looking at the data throughout the year. And then I'm trying to think of anything else that we included for free. All the teacher guides, teacher implementation guides are included at no cost as well. And I included an additional discount, I believe, at about my capacity. If we were to have a conversation, I would have to go back to management and have a conversation, but we're always willing and open to have those conversations when there are budget crunches.
So I know our teams are very good at making sure we get as the best price that we can possibly get, but I personally would love to see that $5,000 line be included in those things, just with the amount of money that we're looking at spending here and the amount of time that we're going to be putting into Carnegie within our district. I think that would be a wonderful additional show of goodwill from Carnegie to help our district in what is somewhat uncertain educational funding times. But I'll leave that up to the powers that be to negotiate beyond what I can do here as a board member. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the board here? Because I had a couple that I wanted to ask. For the on-site coaching and support for the 26 days, is that one person or a team of people?
It'll likely be a team if you want to add to that. We had one person come just while we were piloting, but.
Right.
So I will say, I actually spent about 5 years on that team before I joined on this side, and it is a team. I think they might have experienced Vicky maybe coming to support them. But again, those 26 days, look, however those guys decided to split that up, we try to, for consistency purposes, we try to make it so that it is the same person each time or the same team of people each time because of the partnership that it truly is. And it being, that non-evaluative piece too. So because it's a partnership, it could be the same person or it could be somebody within the same team with that person, if that makes sense.
Okay. I was just seeing how that then breaks down as far as then your 26 days and how you break them out for PD and working with all of the schools that we're dealing with. And then the other question, could you go back to that slide, Ashley, please?
To this one?
Yes, please. And so it has on-site coaching and support. Year 2. So my question for this is with an 8-year implementation, and is this kind of twofold, one with Carnegie, but also then with our plan forward. Oftentimes, once there's no support, everybody goes their separate ways and you get to herd cats again. So how are we looking at, as we move forward, if training and coaching support is only offered through year 2, to keep that consistent within our group? And I know you said you're doing the scoping and that, but how do we keep that then consistent as we move forward? And then also, what do we do for the teachers that come in after year 2 for their training and their upbringing so that they can continue on to live up to the same standards?
Yeah, I think that goes back to, I would say, our onboarding for our staff kind of across all levels. So that goes with how are we onboarding new teachers? So we've restructured that new teacher time. All new teachers get like a full day of learning around the curricular resources. So yes, we want them to understand kind of the culture and values of us as a district, but we also want them to feel prepared and like they have an extra step ahead going into new teacher week. So that is part of our onboarding process for all new staff. And then beyond the 2 years, our goal with the onsite coaching and support, and I shared this with Sadi, because originally the leadership walkthroughs were pulled out. And I was like, all of that needs to be done in conjunction. We need leaders walking through classrooms, hearing the coaching that's happening so that they can be supporting that coaching beyond when Carnegie is there. Same with our instructional coordinators, which Ms. Beffer is one of them at FLW. So it's really building the capacity of those individuals as well as our team, Chris, as well as his counterparts at secondary. And so part of that also from my perspective is retaining good people. So when we build capacity, like keeping my team here that they can like continue to build that. We're doing a similar model with our early literacy work. So it's really building internal capacity and how we onboard new leaders and new instructional coordinators or our coaches. I feel strongly that with the model that we've even talked about over the next 2 years and switches or adjustments that we've made with our new teacher onboarding, that this is going to be a different level of implementation than potentially the board has seen in the past.
And just to add on to that, also, when we look at the types of supports that we're having from coaching, you know, that can be very fluid. It doesn't necessarily mean one type or one style. So very similar into math. So we went to a different model than we had the previous year. So we're able to understand what works well with our population of our adults and adult learning. We're able to make those adjustments as needed. So if we go beyond that, there's a possibility of extension that will require, of course, a little bit more money. But if there's a need, and we'll assess that as we get there.
Okay. Yeah, because, and I simply asked because of the questions that came so quickly and easily answered, or like, can you assign higher? Can you assign lower? Yes, but even through the pilot, you didn't know that. And so as a new teacher, you may not know questions that you need to ask. How do you plot a line? And having to fight that later versus, you know, so there's those pieces that I would be concerned about. And absolutely, we can be fluid with our support. And so I'm just asking is that we, you know, what is our plan past year 2 so that when you don't necessarily have those other resources that we've paid for, or do we need to reassess at that time? Okay. I think that's all that I needed. So I guess unless there's, as everyone is looking like they're about done with this, unless there's any other questions, I guess I would. I really felt that it was coming, but no, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate the presentation and all the information. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't know. When does it come forward?
Yes, next week,
Next week? All right. So,
next Monday.
okay.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Awesome
much,
being here.
everyone. And then I guess that is the end of our agenda items that we have beyond ending the recording and adjournment. So I'd look for,
Second.
do I have to ask for questions on that one? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? We are adjourned.